Hey there, beautiful sisters and souls. This is Anca Lavinia together with Sarah. We are
Hey,
getting
hey.
together as friends, as ancient souls that recognize each other from past existences, and that in this life we have been blessed to be able to come together and reunite. And we have had different conversations in the past and decided that our conversations, inspired by God, by our heart, are very valuable. So it's like a test of faith, a leap of faith and of trust to just like record this and share it with you. It's gonna be raw conversations between sisters. And it's just whatever is alive right now,
Mm,
almost like a peek behind the scenes, behind, the sisters that do what they do in their lives. We're both women on their mission, on their paths, supporting other women. And we have these beautiful, flourishing, and joy bringing and filling conversations. So it's like, why not do this? So, welcome into our homes, welcome into our space. We were talking before about authenticity and about we both felt into the need for more authentic and raw conversations. And I have to admit, I was telling Sarah before, I have to admit I was a little bit nervous thinking that this is going to be recorded and shared with no theme, with no preparation before, as I notice this part of me, this perfectionistic part of me, and this part of me that
mm.
fears rejection still. What if it's not gonna be perfect? What if I don't have anything important to say? What if I make a fool of myself? And all of these things. And Sarah is like an anchor here, always with a big smile and letting me know it's just like, it's okay, it's gonna be whatever it's gonna be, and it's perfect. Thank you, Sarah, for that.
It's all good, always perfect.
Yeah. So just free flowing here about what is alive now. And as I
Yeah.
mentioned already, I think authenticity is one of the big main topics that are and is alive for you and for me both. I know we talked about it a bit yesterday as well,
Mm,
and how we are almost required or held more responsible to step into more of our authentic expression. And this is exactly what we're also trying to do here. So let me know a little bit about how is this authentic theme or subject percolating, present for you in your life these days. I'm curious.
yeah, yeah. Like, what does it mean, and how do I think I'm feeling like authenticity is such a felt experience now as well. As most things are becoming. Um, how does it feel in the body? We can feel the
Yeah.
difference when it's present, when it isn't. And I think a lot of things, it's a reflection of a lot of the stuff that's going on out there, life in general. There's so much available, so much information, so many opinions, so much in so many ways that really we are required to be discerning for ourselves about, and the way that we do that, I don't know about you, but the way that I've found that personal discernment is through the felt experience, through my body. Like my
Yeah.
body, my instinct, I can feel when something's off. I can feel authenticity when it's present and when it isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting, I've had an interesting journey with that. And just, thank you as well for, opening and for that introduction for anybody watching. And yeah, welcome to our space. And just really with the intention, as Anka said, of opening up where the space that we make and we create in our own lives to authentically connect with each other, with sisters, any relationship that we find where honesty, ease, and authenticity is present, then we as practitioners, as sisters, as women, we lean into that. Wherever it's present, we lean in. and we allow ourselves to cultivate that space and to be vulnerable in that space. And then, as you said, just to open that up um, to anybody watching. And I think the really important thing for me in doing so is because I've really felt the value of sharing real time
Mm.
experiences, and so in some cases processes, especially you and I. And there's a lot of women that are in service to others, healers, light workers, whatever we do
Mm.
and however we do it.
Yeah.
um I think there's a tendency as humans for us to get stuck in our minds with our own process. There's a lot available, as we said, and so it's like when we can connect to each other in as many ways as possible, in a vulnerable, open, honest way, and raw. Yeah, like we're both. I don't, there may be people on here, you may know us, you may not. And if it's the first time that you've come across either of us, then I'm so blessed to share space with you. But we're raw. I don't hide any of my shadow. I don't hide my process. And yeah, sometimes it does make you feel a bit nervous, a little bit, oh my God, I'm not perfect in this situation. I'm not polished.
Yeah.
I'm not always good. Light, and life is heavy sometimes. We're walking our own path, our own process. But to show up in that space, as well as to show up in any and every space, I think it's really important that we mirror all sides and facets of life and this experience of ascension right now. Every single one, light and shade, good and bad, if that's how it feels, whatever. And it's really important to reflect all sides of this, and shades,
Experience.
because that's the human experience. There's a lot of bypassing that can go on if we're just wanting the love and light all the time. So that's one of
Yeah.
the reasons that I share in rawness and vulnerability, is so that other people can think, actually, yeah, I'm not alone in that type of experience. I'm not alone in those dark thoughts or feelings. I'm not alone when I look out at the world and despair at what I see.
Yeah.
All of the stuff that we go through, I do think it's really important. So, yeah, that's why we're kind of sharing this, really, because it's like, let's get into conversations that allow us to expand and to see one another in ourselves.
And so much so, I guess, even yesterday I recorded a short video about especially facilitators, therapists, whatever you want to call us or these kind of people, that we are often still seen as perfect and we are projected on this image of having everything together, of if, and this is even parts of myself, speaking for myself now, like if I'm on this path for like 10 years or 15 years or whatever, there's a part of me that sometimes gets frustrated and critic, and it's like, still you have stuff that you didn't solve, like still you don't know that, like still you're still not good
Yeah.
enough, healed enough, spiritual enough, solved enough, resolved enough, whatever, whatever.
Mm.
And I guess I was like reflecting on this recently, that being on the spiritual path, I don't have a better word than spiritual path. It's just for the sake of understanding. It's not
Yeah.
misleading totally, but being on this remembering path, spiritual path, whatever, growing path, whatever you resonate with, um, it actually is about a lot of resilience, first of all, and a lot
Mm.
of courage. Even today in this discussion, in this talk, I said, like, I came here with a dose of vulnerability because I noticed how I'm like, oh my God, what if I'm gonna screw this up? What if they're gonna judge me? What if I'm not good enough? What if they're gonna like say that I'm not a spiritual enough or whatever? standard or image I've been holding myself up to until recently. Um, and during this path of my own, I've noticed that when I am the most authentic, the most raw, the most human, the most myself, that's when the experience with another is most enriched and healing and awesome and magic. And I was like, at the beginning, I was even surprised when I was receiving this kind of feedbacks from women in circles or one on one or in friendships. Like, oh my God, this was so special today. And I was like, but I didn't do anything special. I didn't
Mm.
even like do whatever I wanted to do at the beginning. I didn't even do that meditation or that activation or that specific thing. It was just me telling a story or me just sharing about my process, where I am, and how I feel. And I noticed, and those were anchors for me and points to go back to every time this little fear or nervousness came up, like what if people will. Because this is one of my biggest wounds, coming with a background of abandonment and rejection and people pleasing. Of course, it's gonna stick its head out from time to time. Yes, even after 10 years of self work, because there's so many layers and we're so complex. And the golden in here, or the way that I can look at myself and say I'm so proud of myself and who I've become, is when I am able to hold both realities. This is even making me emotional to be at this point, to be able to, in the same time, see how scared I am, and in the same time, be able to hold the scared part of me and
Yeah.
to hold and anchor the faith, and take the leap of faith and take that courageous step and bold step forward. It's also, that's why I was saying, like, these people on the spiritual path, the ones that are here to anchor the new earth reality, that value authenticity and rawness and transparency, it takes fucking courage for that, and a lot of resilience, and a lot of, being able to sit through the darkness and through the heavy times and hard times and watch everything crumbling or being still. Like, we both know we've been traversing recently times of like nothing happening. No matter what you do, it's like nothing is happening. And yet, being able to hold that faith, to hold that trust, to hold that even joy sometimes. It's so interesting and paradoxical. And this is the multidimensionality we speak about so much in a very felt and lived way. We're both that side and this side in the same time. We can also see and feel the future and the new earth and the joy and the beauty in the same time, while we feel frustrated and tensed and like nothing's, you know, coming out the way we want. And I think this is so beautiful, powerful, and if you want, like, I am proud of myself. Like, taking a moment and I am proud of you for everything you've done until now, for your like remaining on this path, for holding it, for not leaving it, for not giving up, for not quitting, and that is, we need more of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm proud of you. And for holding it down, right? And you're absolutely right. And do you know what? I'm actually just going to grab a pen
Yeah.
because there's so many things that you're like boom, 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 boom. There's about 10 things that I want to pick up
Yeah.
on. But yeah, I mean, you talked into the commitment that it takes, right? It
Commitment,
takes
that's the word.
commitment.
Devotion. Yeah, and
It
commitment.
takes commitment, yeah. And later on, we connect to a sense of devotion and what we stand for. But you're absolutely right, the commitment that it takes to start to offer self, and essentially that's what it is. We start off and we're self-development, we feel like we're learning something. We're not learning anything, really. We're remembering.
Yeah.
And it takes commitment to learn, to relearn how to put yourself first, which is
Mm.
essentially what we're doing day to day, because you have to have that sense of, why am I doing this and what is my purpose?
Mm.
And sometimes it's just a calling. So you just end up, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And you spoke into that sense of having that gratitude for yourself, the recognition, the honoring. And personally, for me, that's been a huge piece that I've had to develop, like
Mm.
building a muscle,
Yes.
because that is self-care, is really, it's starting to learn that everything comes through us and from within. So therefore we have to really, and being on this path is self-care, because it's starting to get in touch with who we truly are, what we're doing here, and putting that purpose first, rather than focusing on, what we've been told life is about, or the values that we've
Mm.
been given, or the external physical world. It's not about any of that. This body and this experience is a vessel for our soul to experience itself. And we can get very caught up in the external, the physical life, and get completely sidetracked. And then we really do have to bring in, yes, the commitment, the resilience, because we're kind of retraining ourselves as to what life is really about and what we're actually doing here. And I just want to speak into something else that you mentioned around, when we've been doing something a long time, we tend to have this expectation of where we should be
Yeah.
or what results it should bring up. And, we're really, for me, that was a real, not test, but a point in space time where I kind of started to acknowledge
Mm.
the negative effects of the implant of time. Time is a man-made construct. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist in any other reality than this physical one. And you demonstrated very well there these stresses and pressures that the concept of time puts in our life. Like and we've all been through this. I've been on this path for 10 years. Why am I having to look at that particular issue again? Or I've done this, and this. So therefore, that should happen. It creates a linear
Oh, yeah.
expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are disappointed when we don't see that, or we bring pressure into ourselves when we've got that linear expectation of time. So it's just another way that humans can pressure ourselves. And really, what it's been shown to me like is, it don't matter how long you've been on this path now,
No, it doesn't matter
because
because
it's
we
all
were going.
crumbled. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crumbled. And the thing is, the way that I've been shown it is everything, if we have been on the path a long time, everything that we've done up until now is purely to enable us to deal with right now.
Yeah.
And there are people waking up now
Now.
who have been awake for, awake, conscious, in other words, conscious of themselves,
Yeah.
um, for a week.
Yeah.
And they could potentially be more conscious and more humble and more willing than somebody who's been on the path 20 years.
Yeah.
Because what I'm noticing with people who are very long on this path,
Mm.
there's a tendency with us sometimes in that way to think that we know more
Yeah.
than we do,
Better or
to
more.
get to think that we know better, to get set in our ways, to
Mhm.
be rigid in our thought processes, not as fluid with change, a little bit in judgment.
Yeah.
So there are things that go with that longevity, being on the path a long time, that are actually not necessarily that helpful to the here and now. Whereas you can get someone who's just not really identified with a spiritual self-development path, and they literally just sort of come into that in whatever way, and they're more open, willing. And for me personally, it's the willingness and the humility, which is getting us through the energetic activations and everything that is, we've got to look at, everything we're being presented with now. You've got to be humble. You've got to strip back everything you thought you know. Sometimes I've been on my knees, like, show me, because everything I thought I knew, everything I thought I was, is crumbling and being challenged. So I think the most important qualities are that newness, I'm a student again. I'm at 0 point. I know nothing. The more I learn, the more I think I know nothing. And just to have that willingness to be shown, because we don't know everything and we live in a multi-dimensional reality. We're only aware of a fraction of ourselves or this reality. And the last bit I wanted to touch on is when you pulled in something that's fundamentally key to awakening, expansion, and ascension. It's the fact that we are this multi-dimensional vision, witness. We're in many parts. All women, we may be individuals and unique, but we're also all a part of the feminine psyche, which is very fragmented.
Mm.
And when we have an initiations into multidimensionality, in other words, when we come out of that sense of linear time,
Mhm.
when things start to get a bit trippy, to be honest, and we start to think, hold on a minute, that's really weird. I'm in this space, but I'm observing that, and I can also feel and see that. Or when we have these experiences where we're sitting having conversations or in a space or with our family, and suddenly everything's really different. Suddenly we can sense completely different realities as a felt experience existing alongside in one space. If things like that are happening to you, you're being initiated into your multidimensional consciousness. And that is a fact that we are not just looking from one eyes, from one aspect of consciousness. And when that starts to happen, there's a huge amount of gifts in that. And
Mhm.
you touched upon that. One effect of that, and one major purpose of knowing yourself in that way, is the ability to be the observer and the witness,
Mm.
and the ability to re-parent parts of ourself that need to come home. And that's the reclamation of power, which is a whole other subject.
Yeah.
But it's really, really important. We have to be in this capacity to hold multidimensional witness of ourselves and others, to then have the higher perspective, the higher compassion, the love for self, the neutrality of the feminine that can just hold and witness anything and not be pulled in and distracted. So all these things, the multidimensional nature is absolutely key right now. It's who we truly are. And from that space, all deeper healing and expansion is just, it's just really, available and accessible.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow.
Yeah. That's a lot.
It's a lot. Yes, it is a lot.
It's like I bombarded like with everything, and then you like unpacked it and put it nicely on the shelf so it makes sense and it's like all there. It's so
Yeah.
nice, yeah. Yeah, and I've been noticing this for not for a long time. This aspect of multidimensionality is something I've been becoming aware of maybe this year more than ever. I guess this year has been a very initiatory year
It really
for
has.
all of us.
Yeah.
And as you're saying, there are people that are just like waking up now, already multidimensional, already
Yeah.
able to like see in multiple dimensions, multiple timelines. They have this great awakening and they're already where we are after like 10, 12 years of work. And this is, I guess, it's also about um, the speed of timelines or ascension or evolution in a way, like in past times, I remember when I began on this path, it took so much more effort,
Yeah.
many more little things I had to do to be able to like quiet my mind or to receive a message or to
Yeah.
channel or to connect or whatever. And I remember a moment when I was, it was like back like 9 or 10 years ago, when I was in a gathering and there was a facilitator talking. And at one point, at the end of that gathering, I was like, I have a message to deliver from Archangel Michael. And he was like this, looking at me, and said something like, see, the time is so accelerated that now we don't have to sit in meditation for 3 hours to receive a message and lit incense and have candles and do that and that and that. It's just something that happens. It's just something that is so much more easeful. And
Yes.
my experience that got me here to this, let's say, ability, developed ability, or remembering, however you want to call it, is embodiment and paying attention more and more to the body, as you said. Because, yeah, it is about felt experience, it is about reconnection with that inner intuitive sense, that perception that we as women have so much, and it's our superpower, and that we have been so disconnected from along the years with this
Oh
type
yeah.
of education. Be in your head, be rational, be logic, you have to make sense, and so pushed into this illusion and matrix of this is how it is. And while you're speaking, this came to me like, and this is courage. This is like practicing courage to be able to go out of this box, let's say, because this is the word that comes up, this box that we were
Mm.
trained to believe we're in.
Yes.
This is like so courageous and so bold and so like such a quality that a lot of people fear, because change is bringing fear up. Like, what if, what if, what if, what if? But to be able to expand, to be able to evolve, to be able to like remember more and embody more, I think this is so important, to be to step out of and learn how you said, how to reparent and be gentle and in acceptance with all the parts of you that fear that bold step, that
Yeah.
fear that um showing up in a different way. And this is the
Yeah.
story of my life, and probably this is the story of a lot of us,
Yeah.
many
Same.
of us.
Yeah.
Like, you're too weird, you're too much, you're
Yeah.
too
You're not
sensitive,
enough. You're
you're
yeah.
not enough, you
Yeah.
don't listen, you come on, come on, like you're too much, come on, like don't you see, like this is not. And I've always been growing up with feeling like I'm wrong, and like I was trained into believing that n- not trusting myself, that has become a huge thing. Not trusting
Yeah.
my
Wow. It's
opinion, my emotions,
huge.
my desires, the way I see the world, the things that I sense. Like, not trusting any of that, because there's always, this is how you should be, this is how you should think, this is how reality is. And I was a very curious child. I was always asking questions and challenging everything. Like, why is it like this? Why should it be like this? Who said it is like this? And I'm
Mm.
so amazed and like joyful when I noticed that I reconnected with that aspect child of myself after so many years. And I'm also teaching my clients, like, ask this kind of questions all the time.
Yeah.
But who said that? But why is this real? But who says that reality should be like this? Challenge everything, because this is how also discernment comes in,
Yeah.
and how progress is made. And in parallel, as I was saying, and you're also mentioning, holding space and being able to nurture and to validate and to see this side, as these parts of me, these fragments of me, if you will, that are terrified.
Yeah.
I'm so different. What would they think about me? I'm so weird. Like, what I speak about, the way I see the world is so like out there for so many people. Oh my God, I can't. And being able to, okay, I'm here for you, I get you, I feel you, we can take a breather, it's okay. And reconnect, how you said, always reconnect. I don't even have a name for it. It can be the soul, it can be the oversoul, it can be your intuition, it can be your God self, it can be
Mm.
this part of you that is wise and knows beyond this reality, beyond the limits and the boxes.
Yeah.
Reconnect to that, and that in itself reconnects you to the purpose you're here for. And choosing, it's a matter of choice. Choosing, like, for example, very from life, I see nothing moving. There are times where no clients come in, no money come in, no change in my life is happening. I notice parts of me going into what the fuck is going on? Like, why is this happening? I'm not doing enough. Something is broken in me. I'm not
Hmm.
healed. I'm not whatever. What wound is there that I don't see? And stuff like that. And in the same time, and going on this loophole sometimes, like what next therapist, what next method, what next thing that I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
do to heal that block, to heal that blockage, to see what's wrong with me. This was another story of my life with the blockages and traumas and always looking at that. Recently gotten out of that, thanks God. And and, and yeah, it's a big thing for me because I have this native way of being that allows me to see so quickly the trauma, the shadow, what needs to be healed. That's also a gift. I wouldn't do what I do if that wasn't a gift. But in the same time, that next level that I'm starting to access where it's not chasing and not always thinking it's a blockage or something that I didn't heal,
Mm,
but it's just like re-anchoring myself, refocusing myself, choosing from an empowered state, connection to
mm.
God, to that inner feeling, to that world that you have inside of you and know it's real,
Yeah.
and okay, it's difficult. I don't see anything moving. It's like shit. Like things are going haywire. Like in my country is like crazy. All of that is like, oh my God. And in the same time, I choose to anchor peace. I choose to stand still. I choose to have faith. I choose to not go in that spiral. This is like awesome. I hear myself talking and it's like, oh my God, but this is like awesome.
But it's incredible, isn't it? Because the choice point is
Yeah.
being able to change your state of being like that. If you
Yeah.
don't like it or it's not prospering, you can literally change your state of being. And this is gold. This is alchemy. And this is what people essentially, whether they're looking at it from that perspective or not, this is what people come to us to learn.
Yes.
Who doesn't want to just be able to change their state of being to a more effective, prosperous, loving, open, whatever?
Even acceptance, like even like one of the
Yes.
first steps that I always teach, and the groundwork is like acceptance. I was literally today I was thinking about it. Accepting the process instead of rejecting or opposing it or controlling it, or that resistance that it should be
Yeah.
over, it should be like this, it should be like that, why isn't it done? And having
Yeah.
expectations and these images that we all have at some point, like it should be over, I should be done with it, when accepting what is. And I see how this practice became such a habit for me. I'm kind of like surprised now and amazed when I go through something that is not very nice. Even like a pipe bursting, or the neighbor
Mm.
flooding my apartment, or the car breaking down, or all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, it is what it is. Can I change it? I can't. So what's the point in going into anger and swearing and making a drama
Mm.
out of it? And this ease in doing so, I think this is one of the results of all of the preparation work that has been done until
Yeah.
now, because things are getting more and more and more challenging and weird and crumbling and like macro, of course, also inside of us. So
Mm.
as you said, yeah, everything. I think it's not for nothing that saying that this is the culmination life, this is the life you have been preparing for ages.
Absolutely.
And I felt this a long time ago, and I didn't know why, but I
Mm.
felt it. I had this, probably this is the last life I'll be here in this kind of reality. And I didn't know. I thought I was arrogant. I thought I was like too. out there. I thought that, like, who am I to say that? I've always kept myself in check about that.
Yeah.
Because I always not feared, but almost feared, let's say, to not become that selfish, arrogant, self-sufficient, rigid type of teacher or even person, you know?
Mm.
Always bringing myself back into, where am I speaking from? What's the space I'm connected to right now? Why am I speaking about this? Does it feel aligned? Because it's a feeling. Does it feel aligned? Does it feel relaxed? Does it feel easeful?
Mm.
You're like so silent, you're processing.
Yeah, no, I'm just allowing a space for that share. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I feel like we spoke a little bit earlier around, the in the new reality, in this reality, the
Mm.
new earth is here. We're not going anywhere, it's
Yeah.
here. So in the quantum reality, everything's in equality. So when we said earlier about it not mattering how long we've been on a path,
Yeah.
that's in the sense of nobody is superior to
Yeah.
anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. However, the benefits of having been committed to a path, any path of the light, for any period of time, is the ability to discern. It's
Yeah.
the ability to make the choice. It's the ability to let go of attachments. It's the ability to bring in a higher perspective. So it doesn't matter in one way, but in another way, it's given us a lot of tools to be able to deal with this moment. And that's why we help other people with that. Because the issue with this reality, or the reality that's crumbling, is it's a mind matrix,
Yeah.
and everything is anchored through the mind. And this is where all of us get stuck. We don't get stuck anywhere else but in our mind. It's
Thank you for saying
simply
that.
just a thought. We're not letting go of anything other than the thought of something. So it's all in the mind. So what we've got in terms of that, really, we've got a really solid foundation, and anyone who's put in the commitment, so that's where it becomes really relevant, because what we're being asked to do, and spirit and ascension and healing, it's actually very simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. What needs to be done, including in this moment, and with this experiences and reality that we're facing and navigating at the moment, it's actually very simple what we have to do, but it's not easy.
Not easy.
And we can access through the commitment, the practice, the dedication, and daily practice is very, very important for anybody out there who's not feeling too great, finding it difficult to get to grips with things, not really having a sense of clarity within. A daily practice is absolutely essential. However that looks is entirely up to you and is guided by your heart, but it's really a gift and a practice that must be brought in to bring in any solid foundation for your growth, and to bring in that perspective and everything else.
And
So
no practice is too small, too
no,
little.
absolutely, it doesn't have to be long, and
It can be something as
anything.
simple as deep breathing,
Yeah,
it can be something as simple as taking some pauses during the day and just doing nothing. It can be
yeah,
something as simple as just shaking your body for a minute. It can be
yeah,
so
connecting to
simple.
the body.
Connecting to the body, connecting to the earth, like hugging a tree, sitting on the earth. A
Yeah.
prayer, a simple prayer from the heart, like, God, give me whatever you need in that moment, or help me with, or I'm so confused, bring some light into this, or whatever simple prayer from the heart.
Mm.
And I'm such a big thank you for saying this, because I'm such a big advocate for simple practices
Me
and
too.
daily
Yeah.
practices. And I've actually today released this. this kit
Yeah.
that contains like a course that is about a few simple practices, and they are evergreen. I mean, my mind went into, but this is like for beginners, you are in another level, like what's your ideal client, stuff like that. And then I'm like, no, these are evergreen practices no matter where you are on this path, because it never gets old to connect to your breath, to connect to your body, to connect to
Yeah.
God, to sit in prayer for a couple of moments. It never gets old to connect with nature, and to have an altar in your home and lit a candle and stuff like
Mm.
this.
It's actually more important than ever, I think. It really
Yeah,
is. And,
yeah,
I know
yeah.
one thing that I am here to do and what I bring sacredness back to
Yes,
life.
yes,
And
yes.
if we're not doing that in our own way, in our own lives, in our own home, with our own life, this is your energetic field. You are the center of the universe. This point in time that you exist as breath in a body is the center of everything. It's the life force made manifest. It's God made manifest. If you're not honoring that, appreciating it, and respecting, it's not about protecting from a place of fear either. That's
No,
so old.
yeah,
This is respecting your space, respecting your energy, respecting your body, respecting everything that you are and do for yourself, and moving through your life in that way. I think it's more important than ever. And
yeah,
it's all about your consciousness, how conscious you are of yourself, of your energy, of what you're creating in this moment for tomorrow. And on that, I want to pick up on, you mentioned fear,
mm,
because fear is rampant. There's only two real frequencies in this reality. It's love and fear. The basis of anything negative, whether it's thoughts, experiences, whatever it is, however we label it, it's fear. It's a fear-based energy. All the people in anxiety in this world, it's
here,
fear-based.
yeah,
So we fear is an energy that anchors the old world, and it anchors the old way of being. It anchors the old identity that we are. So whenever it comes up in us, it's imperative that we look at that, look at the root of it, really unpick it. It's really crucial for anyone out there listening who is a light worker, healer in service to others. It's very, very important that we make our fears conscious and that we release them. There is nothing to fear, despite everything that's available, despite the news, turn the news off,
oh,
despite
no.
all the influx of different shit that's coming in every direction, despite people's conversations, other people's fears, the lack and scarcity in the world, the trauma, all of this stuff, fear is an illusion. Unless a wild animal is chasing you, you're being bombed, or someone's holding a gun to your head, fear is an illusion. And it's
And I
really
know it's
imperative
easy to
as
say
light
that.
workers that we release
Oh,
that
yeah.
fear within. It really is, because we cannot function in all integrity, authenticity, and honesty when we're not able to see that the light's already won. If we're hooked in through fear in any way at all, then we're leaking our energy out. And it's really, really important, if we're talking about empowerment,
Yeah.
serving others, reclaiming our power, it's really important that we get to grips with what fear actually is and release that as an energy in the body. I really feel that's important, because I see a lot of the spiritual community still in fear, and it keeps them in judgment. And actually, we're much more susceptible to being distracted, harvested, and sidetracked if we're still in that energy. What the new earth is asking for are sovereign leaders who understand the nature of light and dark, and that there is nothing to fear. So it is really imperative that we look within us for where we're still holding fear, with love. We look with compassion. We look with acceptance, and we recognize the depth of what's been held there. We honor that, and then we do the work to release that and bring in the truth of ourself, which is that we are made of love, and the very fiber of our being is life force. It's benevolent, it's supreme goodness. There's nothing to fear in that. And really, and then work from that place. So yeah, it's really important. And then the trust of self comes through that, through that knowledge of self, that knowledge of what you're actually made of, like your physical body is held together by magic. So how could that be
And
anything?
I know it's a path, and I know it can sound. There's even in myself a little body there that is popping out. Like it's so easy to say that. Like come on, like no fear, like we're magic, like we're light, and this sounds like such a spiritual, fluffy stuff ideas that we are so fed up with, me included, and
Yeah,
and in the
yeah,
same
but it's
time
not.
there's so many cliches that are so true, and there's so many things that sound fluff, but they're so true, and
Yeah,
they become true when we embody,
we feel it. You've got to feel it in your
feel it.
body, and that's a
Yeah.
process. Yeah, that's a process of
And as you
really
go,
looking at who
yeah,
you are.
as you go on this path and you have this new awareness unveiling, new awareness coming
Mm,
up, then you can have more clarity, like what's going on, this is what's happening, this is what's real, this is what's not real. I was
mm,
sharing with you the other time we were talking, about all of these influences, and I
yeah.
remember now I can give an example. Thank you so much for everything you brought. Like, it's so enlightening and joyful to be able to have this kinds of conversation. I know we say this all the time to one
Yeah, we do, but it
another,
is really,
but it
yeah, I'm
is
so grateful.
such a blessing. I remember one of my closest friends asking me like, "But how did you know that they weren't your thoughts? How did you
Right.
know that you were being under attack at that moment?"
Yeah.
And because I was doing like it was happening, this thing was happening while I was in the midst of one of my offerings. I was live
Wow, yeah.
with people and I was doing my thing, and I explained to her, well, it is a bit difficult to explain, but it's also a felt thing, and it is knowing yourself,
It is.
and
That's
being
what it
able to
is.
observe, and being able to hold multiple realities, let's say, in the same time. I was
Yeah.
there doing my thing with the ball, with the light language, being all connected and offering, and in the same time, I was able to observe my thoughts and my mind going, "You're a fool. You're
Yeah.
making a fool of yourself. This is weird. This is shit. No one is gonna look at this. This is no good." All
Mm.
of these things. And after I finished that, I knew immediately I was under influence, but I don't know how to put it in a different way,
Mm.
influenced, let's say, by the dark forces, and that was confirmed through me feeling sick in my body.
Yeah.
So and I observed how it took me almost an hour to be able to come back to like clear all that shit out and center myself and be able to acknowledge and to validate myself and to hold myself into, "You did a great job. That's
Yeah.
exactly what was needed. You're guided by God in there. That is light. That is good." I needed to tell myself all of those things again
Yeah.
because of the sidetracking that happened. So one of the perks, let's say, that you also mentioned of being aware of yourself and being a multidimensional being is being so aware and catching everything that is influencing you. Also fear, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like
Only way to catch it, right? There's nothing that's coming in from outside
I
to
was
catch
all
that.
witchy and well and like
Yeah.
myself, and then out of the sudden this thing happens and puts me into like anxiety and paralysis and fear
Yeah.
and anger, and something is like so distorted. This is not me. Okay. So this is like self-awareness coming in, and this is also the years of experience being able
Yeah.
to to see the difference and to discern. And also clearings. I wanted to just bring that word here and that
Mm.
thing in here, because clearings, especially during these times, my point of view is that they are very, very, very important, and not from a place of fear, of course, as you said, but from a
Yeah.
place of being able to be centered, to remain clear and clean and unhook from all of these
Yes,
types of,
hygienic.
yeah, hygiene, just energetic hygiene. Whew, I don't even know what made me go on this
Wow, do you know what? Thank you for bringing that up. And one thing I'd like to clean up right now,
yeah.
I'm talking from that space of sovereignty, okay? Because that's the path that I practice around fear. I'd like to clean up that. I'd like to clarify this. This is coming from a person who spent years in crippling fear. This is coming from a person who was that clinging on to the past that tight. I might have had white knuckles. I have had to peel my fingers off like that because I was clinging on that tight through fear. There have been parts of me that have been that crippled in fear that I was completely breaking down. I never thought I couldn't see myself, and we've mentioned this earlier. Like it got shown like perceptual boxes. After I worked on my self-worth, it's not even about self-worth. Can you see yourself any different? I was so afraid to not be small, so
Mm.
afraid to speak my truth. I used to stay silent even with people who loved me. It was completely irrational. I held that much fear. I was afraid to say what I liked and didn't like.
Yes.
So I'm not bypassing or fluffing over or undermining the process of fear. I've been through it and I was so keeping myself so small, I was fucking petrified. Okay. So
Holding
this
and
is what
honoring
I'm
those.
saying is the end result. It's what's possible, the freedom after the fear. Okay, which is where I stand now, and that's where I'm anchored now. But make no mistake, I've had to unpick myself from the darkest, most fearful places. So it's not about making that light. We've really got to appreciate and understand the effects, but it's by design, ladies. It's by design. It's not a coincidence that everybody kept in a huge amount of fear, never feels their potential, stays small. Yeah, it's by design. Now, I don't know about you, but as soon as I realise that I'm being controlled in some way,
Mm.
I'm like, no, I don't think so. I'm so stubborn, it instantly makes me want to unpick just on that basis alone.
Mm.
Now, some people might not identify or connect with the energetic constructs outside of us that keep us where we are, but I'm telling you that it exists and
Yeah.
they exist within here. And that's why it's really imperative that we look within. And that's where I'm coming from with that non negotiable. We must dissolve the fear within because it keeps us chained. It keeps us in the old. It keeps us small and it keeps us in the past.
Yes, to that.
So, yeah, so it's not undermining it or
Yeah,
valuing
just
it in
blocking it
any
out.
way, but it's really coming from that space of this is my access point to freedom
Yes.
by dissolving that fear and everywhere where it exists within. But yeah, I've had a real journey with that, and that's the only reason that I can stand so firm in where I'm at, and that's why I see it in others as well. And I'm like, when we're holding that, as you said, it comes down to knowing who we truly are. And that's why I think it's such an important piece of anybody's journey
Mm.
is to connect directly with source.
Yes.
However that looks or however that is accessible for you. For me, it was through the earth.
Yes.
And
At the
that's
beginning
why I
for
do
me too.
shamanic work,
Mhm. Mhm.
because the shamanic work is through the earth. You
Yes.
feeling God through the earth. It's accessible through the elements and the physical matter of the earth, which was a really great guide and an easy way in for me because
Yes.
I found a lot of conditioning, programming, and unhelpful connotations around the concept of God
God, yeah.
and the lofty abstract kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
you go up and out and connect. No, no, no. I stopped doing that years ago and I started bringing it into
Same.
my body, into the body of the earth. So let's keep, and again, keep that simple. However is the best way for you to connect to a pure organic sense of source creation. Whether you call that God or spirit, whatever, it doesn't matter. But very, very important, because when we start to organically and directly connect to the life force that we are, we start to really understand, sometimes on a very physical level. It doesn't have to all be energetic woo woo. This is physical, it's science. We're made up of the forces of nature.
Yeah.
So when we connect to that truth and we keep that simple and we really connect to the qualities of that, we get a very clear experience of what God is, of what source is. And then, we start to, that's a whole journey in itself, but that's why I highly recommend it. Sometimes people come to me and their minds are focused on something that's wrong, or their minds are focused on what work they want to do, or that it's this and it's that, and actually end up taking them through a
Yeah.
completely different process. I'm like, let's just forget that for a moment. Let's just park that there for a minute. Because what's really called for here is for you to go on a journey of connecting to
Yeah.
source and your
Oh,
body.
I
And
can't
through
enough.
that, you're going to know who and what you're seeking. You're going to be able to connect to the essence of the divine masculine and the divine feminine and understand what perfect balance is within. You're going to connect to a sense of knowing who you truly are. And from there comes your trust and your faith. So often our minds will think it's one thing, but actually it's very simple. There's very simple things that need to be anchored as a foundation
And I guess
in our
that's why
journey, in
we're
our
here
practice.
as well for this type of process. Thank you for bringing this in as well, because it's also making some bringing some clarity for myself and for my process. As I recently had one of my clients like telling me when I asked her like, how is it for you? Where are you? How you feel after some months of process with me? And she's like, I came here for a totally different thing, and I thought that I needed that and to work on that and on a specific. And you took me on such a different like journey and path, and you showed me so much and so differently than what I was expecting or thinking. And in the first hit inside of me was, oh my God, what did I do? But then instantly I realized, well, because this is what you really needed, and
What you need, yeah.
because you actually, and then I was able to tell her very clearly, actually, this is what you came for, but you didn't know on a mind level. Your soul led you here to me or to you or to this type of facilitation and facilitator because the soul knew we are able to go deeper beyond the mind and see exactly what you're here for, what you're craving, what you're needing, what door you need to open right now to access your inner power, to access your gift, to access your truth, to access your inner God. And your mind might say, well, oh, I have problems with my husband, or I don't have money, or I feel
Yeah.
stuck in my job, or I don't like my body, or whatever mundane stuff. And I'm not diminishing that. That's real. That's true. I also do that type of work when it's needed, of course, because I'm a human. I go through that as well. Um, and in the same time, being connected and feeling the person in front of you, it's like, yeah, but still, you're here for something different.
Yeah.
Let's go on. What do you say about that? Oh, it scares
Yeah.
me. Okay, so let's sit with this fear because this is important.
Great. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, like when someone starts to crack open, I'm like, yeah, now we're here. And it's
it's so
interesting what you
scary.
said, like be on the mind, be on the mind. And this it could be a catchphrase for our whole fucking life and journey right now, because the mind is programmed. The mind is conditioned. The mind only has the past as a point of reference. So, and I get this again, when people come into space, there's a lot of us that have got so many yeah buts. So we come into
Yeah,
space and people are sharing, or I'm holding space, and sometimes all you hear for a while is yeah but,
yeah, but
yeah but, and we do it ourselves. We do it to ourselves, don't
yeah,
we?
Yeah.
Like, we might be visioning, creating something, and the mind's like, yeah, but what about this? And what about that? And da, 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 da.
Mhm.
All of this stuff, it's just, it's resistance. It's a block. It's a program. It's what our mind presents us as real. But really, that's what we're deconstructing.
What I
That's what
see
we're
is like that
surrendering.
inorganic template. It's like a grid, but it's like fuzzy, dark, confusing grid that is our mind is kept in and fed by. And what makes my heart sing with joy is that and this is so genuine and so like connected and so intuitive, and I'm like, I can't believe that we're speaking about these things that I was like the other days thinking about, writing about, contemplating. The other day I recorded a thing for one of my offers, and I felt into like what is needed now to be transmitted. And the first thing I felt was fear. I felt massive fear.
Yeah.
So I recorded something about fear and a little bit of a process with working with fear with a lot of gentleness and presence. And now you brought this up and we're speaking about it. And in the same time, in my country with the presidential elections and all of that is crazy weird. And
Yeah.
I almost gave up. Speaking about fear and about conditioning, I almost gave up on writing this piece, seeing people around me being so adamant and so almost aggressive about we need to vote with our head, we need to be rational this time, we need to be very logical, the heart can only go that far, the emotional and da, 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
I was like feeling like this is such bullshit, like no 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 no, but I was anxious about putting myself out there and saying something that most people would disagree with.
Yeah.
That no, and I did post like a very short one yesterday, but probably I'll expand on that now that we're talking about it, and it's like
Yeah.
the same thing. um that as a woman you're super, not only as a woman but as a woman is, let's say, amplified. Your superpower is feeling, sensing, intuiting, subtle perception, not the mind. The
Yeah.
mind is programmed. The mind only
Yes.
knows what it has been told
Yeah.
over and over and over and over again. And see, I was looking around me like the chaos and the fervor and the aggressiveness everywhere, and I was like,
Yeah.
am I crazy thinking this, speaking this? This self regulation awareness check
Mm.
all the time, and then taking the step. I feel like we're
Yeah.
closing the circle. And then taking the step, that bold, courageous step outside the norm, outside
Yes.
what is considered the
Yes.
norm.
And, there's something really important there as well and relevant right now because it represents the template that sensitive souls, empaths, healers,
Yeah.
light workers. It represents the template of trauma where we've been kept small for many, many lifetimes. In other words, shamed when we speak out. And in the past, in many lifetimes, actually physically
Tortured, killed,
hurt, tortured, killed.
killed.
So now we're in this lifetime where we know that it is now safe to speak up compared to what we've been through before. We don't have that. This is the lifetime. It's safe. We're good, but we've still got the energetic resonance within people's DNA, because that's the old construct, that's the old world, that's the crumbling, but it's still there right now. So we still come up against this vibration of being shamed, criticized, scorned at. Oh, don't be ridiculous, all this kind of energy when we come to speak truth. And it's a real test for us at the moment to be anchored in what we stand for and what our purpose is here, as opposed to listening to getting pulled out by that very visceral fear reaction that comes through. We can still feel it, we still feel the traces of it in our nervous system from that past trauma. So a lot of us are at this point where we are feeling this resonance of, oh my God, and we have to literally, remind ourselves and sometimes reparent those parts of the body, that we're healing and integrating, and be like, it's okay, and reassure self, and really pluck up the courage and take that speed. And do you know what I was shown is it's not necessarily going to go away immediately. In other words, if I pluck up the courage to speak and then someone fires a hateful comment at me, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not that the world has already changed and that reaction has dissolved. It's that we have to respond differently.
Yeah.
We have to do it anyway, and release the fear around what that feels like and that possible reaction, because we know that it isn't the past anymore, and we know that we are safe. And do you know what? Let people, it's not our responsibility how people receive us or where they're stuck, where they're in their own process. So we're going through, I think all of us individually, this process of giving ourselves permission and really coming, I keep calling it coming out the closet, like,
Yeah.
because there's so many things, aren't there, that's real truth that I know I'm here to talk
Stepping
about.
into this role, into this bigger role, into the mission,
Exactly.
into
Of
who you
speaking
are.
truth, standing for it. Yes.
I have like my skin is like all bumpy now and my hair is like
Yeah.
sitting up because I feel that all of this chaos around me is actually an opportunity. It's the first time in my life when I felt that. And I was also observing how I'm not triggered anymore, how I don't
Yeah.
react anymore, how I'm not pulled into their dynamic anymore, how the internet is like full with rage and shame and hate, and I don't
Yeah.
care. I don't care. I literally have no emotion around that. And I because I understand so well, like this is just the machine, the programming, the matrix, the illusion, all of that there, like, and also of course it's a result of the inner work and embodiment that I've done throughout the years.
Yeah.
I truly lack on validating myself, so that's probably why it comes up, and like validating that I am doing good,
Mm.
and yeah, this invitation of like step up. Other times I would have thought like, but who are you to tell your truth like that boldly?
Yeah.
Or who are you to like think that people need your opinion? Or who do you think you are to like, be the leader of who? Like who needs you as a leader? All of those past belittling thoughts, that
Yeah. Those voices from the
those
past.
voices of the past, exactly, those frequencies there from the template, the old template that is crumbling. But now I actually viscerally felt you have a community. There's people waiting for you to say something. This is your opportunity to step up and step into your leader role, the new earth leader that you say you are, that you know you are, that you think you are. So just step up and match that with action,
Yeah.
and just go there and expose yourself and say what you believe and say what is your truth, even though that, and yeah, it took me a bit, it took me a couple of days to be able to clear the fear, clear the anxiety, clear all of that
Yeah.
out of me, so that I'm able to go there and share something that might be very much rejected and scorned and all of that. But it's like, this is who I am. And if this is something that I can share with my best friend or with my husband or with my closest friends, then I need to be able to share it publicly as well.
Mm.
Because I am about this authenticity and transparency. So I need to embody that. I need to act on that in the public space as well. No matter how many people
Yes.
would leave my community, no matter how many people will not get it. I was even asked recently, when I was talking about what's actually going on and who's who in this world. I was asked, but do you tell these things to other people too? Because they will think that you're kind of. And I was like, I don't care what people think, because I do not speak for those people who think that.
Yeah.
I'm not here to speak for those people. And it took me a lot of grit and a lot of self work and a lot of dark nights of the soul to be able to stand up and speak about these things
Absolutely.
for the ones that can and want and wait and have the openness and the willingness to listen and actually feel validated and not alone anymore because I have the courage to speak about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's like, this is an opportunity. These are times that are an opportunity for each of us to step into our bigger role, in that role that we always felt it deep down. We might have not been able to actually accept it fully, agree with it, or embody it until now. But now is the time where it's like, are you taking ownership? Are you
Yeah. It's time.
really? Are you that leader that you think you are? Well, act on that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'd like to speak into that on a different, a slightly different way as well, because what I've noticed with a lot of women, they're not necessarily identifying with being a leader.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So and what you're speaking into is really the path of being a way shower.
Yeah.
And we're discussing it amongst ourselves here and now from our perspective of having reached a point where, one, we recognize that about ourselves, and two, we're owning that and reaching that point of expression and stepping into that role.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of, and I just want to speak into that concept or that reality of being a way shower,
Yeah.
because sometimes we can be that and be in that without fully identifying that that's what we are.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we're not quite at a point where we're owning that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
actually, it can feel quite, we can kind of misunderstand ourselves in that process of getting to unpicking what that is and what it looks like and how we own that.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, if anyone out there is experiencing a lot of contrast, in other words, they're noticing a lot of things they're unhappy with.
Yeah.
Okay, so noticing a lot of things around them that make them stressed. So a lot of the times, especially when we start to awaken or we go deeper into our path, we start feeling out of alignment, even sometimes with our own family, with our friends, with our work, with everything around us, with what we hear in the news. It's like our whole life's a whole mixture of things that make us angry, trigger us, and piss us off.
Yeah.
And all we feel is this kind of dissonance with the world, and we feel a bit raging and nothing's easeful, and it can feel very overwhelming. It can feel very confusing. It can make us doubt ourselves, because that's what the mind does. It always wants to twist everything up. And a lot of the time we can miss the messages that are actually coming through from the discontent and the dissatisfaction that we feel.
Mm.
And what I learned on my own path is that if something's being shown to me that really triggers some type of discomfort,
Mm.
I used to look at that thing. In other words, I'd be really judging that thing or judging that person or wondering why it was like that. It was about that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this life, there's a million things that it could be about: world news, family members in this state or that state, the way that friends are, the way people treat us, people that are disrespectful, the injustice in the world, all of this
Millions
stuff
of
we
things.
can
Yeah.
look at in all these individual spaces.
Yeah.
But really, if we bring that in, it's like, if something's making me angry, it's showing me, it's trying to reflect not anything about that thing or the anger itself, but it's trying to show me that justice is important to me.
Yeah.
So
My passion, my
everything
motivation.
everything that becomes apparent as uncomfortable or wrong in the world, it's actually trying to fine tune you
Mm.
to what is right for you and what you value.
Mm.
And when you start to flip that round, and instead, with the example of anger or things that trigger us in that way, injustice, if we flip that round and start to feel into justice,
Yeah.
if people are disrespectful and we can't stand it, and I haven't got anyone around me who respect all this. So okay, so what does respect? It shows me that respect is really important to me. And one thing that spirit is trying to craft us in and form us in the new sense of ourselves is a being that is fully anchored and embodied in his core values,
Yes.
because they're the values of God. They're the values that wish to come through in service, in purpose. So everything that's reflected to you, what is it saying on the flip side of the mirror? Because it's showing us, okay, so it's showing me that respect and justice is really, really important to me. And
Yes.
then if you bring those frequencies and that truth into your body, you'll be shown everywhere where you're not respectful to yourself,
Mm.
and that you're not boundary, not upholding a
Yes.
sense of justice in your own space and life. So it's always a service, it's always a lesson. And way showers will be the ones who notice all the stuff that's not right, because we're here to anchor what is right for us. A lot of the time ahead of our family, hence the term, we show the way, then other people
Yep.
follow. So if you're consistently being shown things you don't like, there's a reason for that. It's not to make you suffer.
Yeah.
It's not so that your whole life is just discomfort and with no purpose. It's to help you craft what that is right for you, what you stand for, what your values
Know
are.
yourself better.
Yes, and
To
then
know.
we're required to do that first, to lead with that. So a lot of women, they're not really not able to connect with a true sense of their power and worth. They don't identify as a leader,
Yep.
but you already are. You already
You
are
already are. That's
in
my
your
point. Yeah.
friendship groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, in your family, in your friendship groups. You're the one that can see what's right and wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the one that stands up and says no when everybody else is just like, oh, that's all right, isn't it?
You're the one that
No,
has the
it's
different
not.
opinion. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you're already doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and really using everything that pisses you off to take a deeper look at actually what do I really value and how can I bring that quality through more in my life and anchor that as a way of being.
Beautiful. Yeah, when I'm speaking about leadership, probably for me, it's important to use this word. And in the same time, it's everyone is a leader. You
Yeah.
can call it different, however it resonates, but we all are leaders because we all are sovereign, because we all are the leaders of our lives,
Yeah.
through our choices, through our embodiment. So it's not in the sense that I'm the leader of you or I am,
Absolutely. Yeah.
ruling you or over your life. It's just that for me, now that you spoke about it, it arised the clarity within me.
Mm,
Um, I was the informal leader my entire childhood
yeah.
and young years. And I remember, for example, when I was working in the multinational stuff, I've done that for some years as well.
Mm,
I remember that I very clearly said, I do not want to be the team leader or the manager in here. I do not
yep.
care about that. You can fight over that amongst yourselves. I don't care about that. And in the same time, I noticed that even when I was in the fifth grade, I was always the one that children would come to ask me questions. In these multinational or jobs that I went in and worked for some years as an employee, I was always the one that was different, has a different opinion, wanted a different thing, saw the process in a different way,
Mm,
spinned it in different ways, had different visions, and so on and so forth, and I was never actually really understood or accepted for that, and that is what
mm,
led me to go out of the system, because I at a point I was sick. I couldn't anymore. I was sick literally. And then it was like, am I choosing to become sick and die, or am I choosing to just go out of this? It's just a job, so I will be able to find something else anyways, not die on the altar of the job, of the business, actually giving my energy to someone else. So I went out of that, and now probably it's the time when I am becoming, or I am conscious, aware of this quality of the way shore of the leadership that it is in me and has always been in me. And
mm,
it's a point where I need to like embrace it, acknowledge it, step
Yes.
into it, feel into it, bring it more forth. As I said before, coming from a background in the same time of a people pleaser, of a scared lamb that I was for a lot of time, a lot of years, shutting up, being ashamed, always wearing black, blending into the corner, uh, all of that. It's the side of me, that is finally able to breathe, to come out into the light, and to express herself. And I'm seeing that fiery quality about myself coming up. And just like, I remember at one point someone saying something judgy, and because of my very, sometimes my very, how can I put it, straightforward tone, like it is, you know?
Yeah.
And someone said something very judgy about it, and I said, I'm going through some like some time now where I need to allow this voice to come out and play and be.
Mm.
It might be how you say, it might be perceived in that way or in the other way, but for me, I need to let this out. I need to make space for her. Even if she sounds angry, even if she sounds
Yeah.
obnoxious, even if she sounds whatever way she sounds and it's not proper. And that was the time when I was doing a lot of work on the wild woman and working with women a lot on the wild woman archetype
Yeah.
side of us. And I was like, if I sound like I'm enraged, I don't fucking care. I need to be able to allow myself to be like that, to sound like that, to have space
Yeah.
for that. Because that's also me. I'm sick and tired of trying to chip myself, to chisel myself, to melt myself and distort myself so that I sound nice and pleasant and
Oh,
spiritually
yeah.
correct. Uh,
Nice,
you know?
schmice. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know we're so, because this is how we connected. This was actually the
Yes.
energy of when we connected, when we first met. For me, it was like that. It was,
Yeah.
I felt in you, the sister that really can get me, really see me, and really accept me and value me for exactly these qualities that you also hold and have and are precious to you. And you're not one of those people that would like, oh, but why aren't you more gentle? But why don't you speak more like this? You're not spiritual enough.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, don't make me puke. There's
Yeah.
also this fiery person in me that is standing for the inequality in the world or for the injustice in the world, or tying into what exactly what you
Yes.
said, before. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Also me, it's also feminine. It's also part of a woman.
Shakya, and that also you're speaking into something really important, I
Woo! Let
think,
that
for
out.
all women to look at, because especially in the spiritual community, there's a lot of connotations and perceptions, misconceptions around what divine feminine looks like. And personally, I had to go through a whole process.
Yeah.
Also, while I was looking at the Wild Woman,
Yeah.
reading Women Who Run with the
With the wolves.
Wolves,
Yeah.
which is one of the best
Yeah.
books in the world. Every woman should
Get
should
it.
read it and have a copy like a Bible, as far as I'm concerned. And I really had to redefine for myself what it means to be feminine and what the feminine is and means and what those qualities are. Again, the qualities are always defining. You can define a consciousness by the qualities that it is and that it's demonstrated by. And I had to literally reconstruct the definition and allow myself to do that for myself. And I won't have anybody telling me what it means to be feminine, what that looks like, or how I should show up and speak. And there's a lot of this nice, soft, gentle, which while that is absolutely wonderful. And the essence of the feminine, the medicine of the rose, and
And we
the
all have
essence
that
of that
in ourselves.
purity is very gentle, but she's also fucking potent,
It's also Mary
fierce,
Magdalene. She's also,
non-negotiable.
yeah,
Yeah. And the way that spirit showed me, actually, I got taken through this whole initiation around this in different stages and layers, because I had to look at myself very differently to achieve this new, state within me. I had a fear around appearing cold.
yeah, me too.
Had a very big fear around that, yeah. And actually, I did a meditation and I connected. This huge dragon energy came in, and I connected through the dragon. Has actually taken, as if I became the dragon and saw through the dragon's eyes. And it was like we were flying, and it was literally what I heard was something like, she's the purveyor of all she sees. But it was there was no sentiment there. It was a very cold, clinical
Huh.
vision. In other words, I was able to view everything exactly as it is, with none of this soft, sort of sentimental, fluffy, you know, it
Yeah.
was a very, and I got taken through that because it was dismantling this construct that I had around the feminine should not be cold. That whole programming and
When the
fear
definition
around
of
being
yin,
cold.
when the definition of yin in Chinese medicine is cold, water, night.
There you go. But we've got this whole conditioning through the patriarchy that women should be yielding and soft and gentle and loving at
And
all
that's the
times. And
nurturing
then,
part, and that's the mother part, and that's in all of
yeah,
us. We all have all of
we
these
all
inside of
have
us.
this, yes, as multidimensional feminine within us. And it's coming to a place where we can define that for ourselves beyond the constructs of the mind, beyond the programming of the patriarchy, which has been power over the feminine, has controlled the feminine, reshaped it, and labeled it for its own purpose. So I'd invite anyone to really look at, as you step into your power, really define that for yourself and really look at that as, in its pure essence, and don't feel like you have to mold or make yourself small or
Fit
different
in.
to fit in.
Yeah,
Yes,
100.
that's what we're coming out of, and we really have to give ourselves permission to
Yeah.
kind of find our own way through and out of that, and define that for ourselves, and really allowing that is a real feeling of freedom in the body as well. And as much as we like to think of everything as really deep and esoteric and
Yeah.
abstract, when you really go into the womb and into the dark crevices of the feminine, she's very earthy, and
Yes.
some bits of her are not very pretty at
Yes.
all. And she's just there. She's there with her fierce, full presence, warts and all. And unless we can be comfortable, have full comfortability in our own body, in our own being, with every part of our body, even the bits that we never used to like, and be really comfortable in our raw presence, um, you know, we're kind of bypassing ourselves until we can come to that really centered acceptance of self. And from there, we can kind of birth the new version that wishes to be seen. So,
Precious. So, so precious. I'm still on the path of liking my body, all of it, and liking my presence, all of it. And in the same time, I've noticed this past year or the other year, I don't even know because time is slippery, I don't care. At some point, I was noticing how complex I can be as a woman, and
of course, we're so complex.
I
Yeah.
was like in awe of like all of the sides, the parts of me that come up in even one day or even in a few hours. And that is not to say that we're like because this is the programming. Hysterical, chaotic, nuts, stuff
Yeah.
like that, because we are so complex and so able to flow within our states, our emotions, our sensations, our archetypes, how we are. And I was noticing that, and even my husband like let me know and told me, you're so different every day, and I'm so like into you because you're like always showing me something else, and you're always like changing, but in the same time remaining the same person that I know. And that is like so not what I see in the women's world, let's say, because women are so conditioned, and this is like a different topic, a different discussion, we're just touching on it. So conditioned to like be one size fits all and be like in that specific box of looking pretty, sitting pretty, whatever. When
Mm.
what I love the most in my work is actually showing women the raw, the primal self. And I remember in a couple of workshops that I've done in person it's more fun when I actually invite them on their fours on the ground and
Mm.
start to like channel and embody that raw. It can be the lioness, it can be the wolf, it can be whatever type of energy they're connected to, and then just growl and let that out and just be
Yeah.
like that on the floor and
Oh, it's so healing, isn't it?
let
To
that
use
breathe
sound.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, and let the throat open and let the womb open and let the
Yeah.
body move and be like,
Roar and growl.
and bring
Ah.
that forth. And I noticed how the women were either frozen, laughing and giggling like this, or looking scared like this. Like, what the fuck is this? You know, some of them. And I understood like how much we need practices like these, gatherings like these, to speak about this, to invite
Yeah.
amongst us the ones that facilitate like gathering circles, stuff like this. You know, like put your hands on the floor, put your knees on the floor, and just outside or inside, doesn't matter, and just connect to that primal self. And it can be shy at the beginning, it can be
Yeah,
weird,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
it can be very
Really shy. Yeah.
like that. And that's also happening with the voice. When I've done a workshop about the voice, to open up the voice and recalibrate this, and I noticed that when I say like just allow your breath to sound, you know,
Yeah, just make a sound. It's so important. We've been so stuffed in.
they
It's like,
can't,
yeah, it's
the
so important.
majority can't, they're like louder and louder. And I know it's everyone's timing in their own pace, in their own process. Start where you are, start with what you have. And again, see, we're returning to simple practices, very
Yeah.
simple things that we can do at home, that we can do in our daily lives to just get unstuck and to just get those chains off of our throats and off of our,
Yes. Create some movement.
you know, yeah. And that's so precious. I feel that we reached a point now, like a peak of our talk here today, and I would love it
Yeah.
to leave it here.
Yeah, I feel like we've opened up, like you said, so many
We opened
areas
up a
that we
lot.
could
Yeah.
potentially go into, including the voice, activation of the voice. That's such a powerful topic. And also weaving into that as well. We will probably end up talking about something different, but it's like how movement and sound like are so crucial to feeling good and grounded and letting go in this whole ascension process. Yeah, and accessing that deeper permission in the body to release that silence, the programming of the silence. Like, we're so done with it
Any
now.
sound, any sound is okay. Just start where you are with just anything that comes up and
Yeah, man,
allow
just
your
make a
body,
sound.
even if you choke, even if you want to puke, even if it's like harsh on your throat, like take
Yeah,
it step by step, be gentle, allow that. That might happen. It's fine. Your body's just unclenching and purging and the energy is moving. That's okay. And I think I have to do something about this again because it moves me so much. I get so
it
passionate
really is
about it.
important, isn't it? Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's
something that I
beautiful.
love.
I've just
Maybe we do something together about the voice or the
Why
wildlife.
not?
We'll
Yeah,
see.
this
We'll
is
see.
it.
That's a good idea.
And equally as well, I know this is the first time that we've done this. Whenever this goes out, these ones are on recordings. We are also going to be doing live podcasts, are we not? And live sessions. But if this reaches anybody, lands in any way, I don't know about you, Anka, but we're always
Let us
open
know.
to go with the flow of suggestion as well. I always
That was
say
my
to
next
my
thing.
clients, yeah, give us feedback. If there's one thing that you're like, oh, I'm hooked into that, but I'd like to
I'd
expand
like to
into that.
expand on that. Yeah.
Yeah, like please,
Great.
put feedback, shout out, let us know. For anyone that's received this in any now moment, just really grateful for you, really appreciate you. We see you, we feel you. Thank you for receiving. Thank you for being here, being present, and for
Thank you
all
so
that you're
much.
doing in your life and your journey as well. It's so
And let's
important.
connect further with all of you, the ones that resonated, that wanna come closer. We have our socials. I'm gonna leave in the comments, and
Yeah,
you can find
cool. Yeah,
probably
definitely
gonna go on
connect.
YouTube, so you're gonna have the description, and you can check us out also on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and come closer and reach out if you need, and let us know what you want to expand us on from all of the things that we open
Yeah.
up and others as well. As we are here to bring the rawness, bring the truth, bring our experience and who we are. And yeah, thank you so much for being present, for opening up, for receiving, and can't wait for more connection.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Mhm.